This video is on creating a building evacuation plan. We hope that you never have to ever execute this plan, but if ever you do, it should be perfect. A building evacuation plan at a macro level is a building with floors, people working on each floor. A disaster happens, say a fire within the premises. The people evacuate the building. All those who can evacuate the building and assemble in an assembly area which is away from the building. A head count of these people is taken so that everyone is accounted for. All those who could not evacuate the building are in a safe place where it's easy for the fire department to evacuate them. The fire engines come in, the flow plans are given to the fire warden or the fire marshal, and using these flow plans, the fire marshal evacuates the people in the safe places, and if anyone is trapped within the building, they are able to get to that in the shortest possible time and safely and evacuate the person to safety. Flow plans play a very important role. They play an important role for the employees in order to know how to evacuate and where to assemble, and also for the fire department to know how to travel through the building in the shortest possible time, avoiding all the hazardous areas. Now, which could be the hazardous areas? The hazardous areas would be the areas where we store the office stationery that we use for printing, where we store the chemicals that we used for cleaning, and the printer inks. All these together come under hazardous materials. So what all should be a part of the flow plan? A flow plan should contain the following details. It should be representation of the flow with the arrangements of the people depicted as they are on the floor. So these are various cubicles, these are offices, these are workstations. The flow plan should have a clear the primary path for evacuation and a secondary path. If the floor is big, there could be a primary path of evacuation depending on which side of the floor you sit on, and there could be a secondary path of evacuation. Elevators are to be avoided and stairwells are to be used. So a floor plan firstly should depict where does each person sit. Next, for that area of the floor which is the primary route of evacuation and which is the secondary route of evacuation. In addition to where the person sits, if a person is physically challenged and would need assistance or has to be escorted to a safe area, it should be clearly marked on the floor plan. The floor plans typically hang on the walls within the floors and they are readily accessible. Next comes the location of the fire related equipment. In this we cover firstly the fire alarms. So if someone notices a fire, the person can go and pull the fire alarm and everyone on the floor and the building is notified. Next should be the location of the fire suppression equipment. So we have the fire alarms and the fire suppression equipment. If there are any hazardous areas consisting of either office stationery or chemical supplies or printer inks, these should be clearly marked on the floor. So let's assume over here we have a central printer and then we have the stationery. This becomes a hazardous area. And next to the restroom we have a store where the chemicals are stored. This becomes a hazardous area. For the printer and the chemicals, what we need is an MSDS, a material safety data sheet. So depending on the printer and the ink used in the printer, a material safety data sheet could be obtained from either the company site, or one could mail to their respective departments and they would send it back. This sheet should also be a part of your flow plan documentation that you hand over to the fire marshals. Every flow should have a flow marshal and a backup. And depending on a flow, if it has 2 wings, then it is suggested that there are more than 1 flow marshals and also more than 1 backups. How frequently should building evacuation drill be rehearsed? We recommend that it be rehearsed at least once every 6 months and preferably once every quarter. The flow marshal should have a list of all the people on that flow. So we have the head count, this should also contain the reporting managers for each individual and the contact number for each person. Thus, in case if in the assembly area, once people are evacuated, a person is missing, the best person to obtain information is the reporting manager, assuming that this person would have told the reporting manager if he were going out to run an errand or for any other reason. And if the reporting manager is not aware of it, then the contact number would help establish contact with the person. This document is a part of the vest. So we have the vests which are worn by the flow marshals, and in the pocket this document should be kept. We recommend that in addition to having a flow marshal and a backup, it is a good practice that by rotation everyone on the floor plays the role of the flow marshal during the year. The advantage is that in case of a real disaster, whoever is nearest can grab the jacket with the vest and escort the people down to the stairwell. If there are more than 1 flow marshal, one of the flow marshals will be responsible for ensuring that all the cabins are vacated. This is typically done by entering the cabin and then closing the door once it is confirmed it's empty. And the other flow marshal would monitor the stairwell. If there are any people who need to be escorted to the safe area, the flow marshal can escort them to the safe area. And safe areas should also be identified in the floor plan. So in this case, assume there is a balcony outside, and this would be the safe area. The flow marshals, once they have escorted the people out of the building, report to the assembly area, where they will take a head count of the people and report to the incident management coordinator. Sorry. The incident management coordinator would compile all the head counts and would know as to how many people are